Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video, and it's a pretty exciting one because it's time to actually talk about the future of Shadowlands. That's something that Blizzard have done in their reveal stream, and also I'll be chatting to Ian later on this evening. You'll see that video soon enough as well, so that's pretty exciting. But as it stands, we've got a big update on the state of the game from Blizzard. It's one that crucially fills us in on Endgame, which has been a big question for many of us, and there's a few pretty darn nice player wins where they've listened to us that I think will be pretty darn happy about. Also, Shadows Rising, the prequel novel to Shadowlands, it can be yours for free. It's a pretty damn good deal, isn't it, with today's sponsor, Audible. Free forever. Yep, you just need to hit my link down below where you can get a free pre-order with your 30-day trial, and it's yours forever, even if you cancel. And trust me, you'll want to read it. A sliver towards the end of the book got spilled out by the press embargo to me, and man, there's some pretty cool stuff there. So, thanks to them for sponsoring. Go get yourself a free audiobook, get ready for Shadowlands, and with that said, let's get into the new info. So first up, we've got the release date. This will be super quick because we don't actually have a release date. We have a release window. That release window is fall, which basically means, I think, from the 21st of September to the end of December. So yeah, Shadowlands is firmly Q4 2020. That pretty much is a surprise to none of us because that's what we had heard previously. As for why there's no date locked in, I think it's fairly obvious with Blizzard working from home. Stuff just is going to take a bit longer. There's more uncertainty, and I think it's wise for them to not peg themselves to a release date at this early stage. Now, of course, back in the BFA cycle, similarly timed, there was a media event where they did give us the release date, but I think that we don't have it is just a reflection of that uncertainty. Now, next up, the Collector's Edition, they revealed that, and tell you what, it's pretty darn shiny, big holographic front, kind of love that. It's also going a bit more old school. It's got an art book, which I like, it's got a mouse pad, a pin collection, and then the soundtrack, all the usual stuff. So yeah, it looks like it's got a bit more in it, but it is a bit more expensive, and then of course there's all the digital stuff, which you'll already know about. So that's the Collector's Edition. Then also beta, right? This is the key thing. Beta starts next week, and in that beta you will get Covenants, you will get the Maw, and you will get max level. And that is super important because max level means we can actually test the Covenants, the Soulbinds, the Conduits, all those things that actually will impact how you play the damn game, what you're actually doing in Endgame. So it really matters that we're going to be able to test that pretty darn soon. Now, one thing that Ian did talk about is changes. Some changes they made really based on player feedback. You know, he mentioned the forums, he mentioned people making videos and just streams, you know, all of that community discussion that we all had, and some of the things that that led to. So, time limits in Torghast, the torments, all that stuff, they're gone, and they're gone because of community feedback. Another thing that is gone from Torghast because of community feedback is the entrance requirements. Now, previously they had said that, you know, for the stuff that would give you power, right, there would be an entrance requirement, but the Endless Halls you could do however much you want. They've just now said, screw it, screw the whole thing, you can just do Torghast whenever the hell you want. Total player freedom. Blizzard basically said, if you want to do Torghast all the time, we're not going to get in your way. And you know, it's kind of funny, Ian saying, we're not going to get in your way when it comes to us wanting to play their game. Sounds a bit wild, that's something that's really good news, but it certainly is. Horrific Visions, I would have loved to have dived into that system a lot more, but frankly, I didn't, because I did not want to have to grind the really boring world content of 8.3. So it's good that Torghast will not have that problem. That really does make me excited. Now, Blizz also did say that they will ensure that, yes, you can do it all the time as much as you want, but you're not going to have to endlessly grind it for rewards, right? They don't want people to feel like it's mandatory in that regard to do endlessly. So that's good. Now, beta, let's talk about that. So, the beta is essentially feature complete, but a lot of work will remain. So it will be level 60. It'll give us a look at the end game, joining Covenants, things like that. And basically, all the big systems, they'll be there, but a lot of fleshing out of details will have to happen. And to help with all of that, there will be a big new invite wave, which I'm sure will have quite a lot of you excited. Now, with that said, that's the general stuff. Now, it is time to talk a little bit about the end game Covenants, because this really is the core stuff. So remember, these are the center of the expansion, right? Blizzard have described them as a build-around feature. That means the expansion is really built around them. Now, the way that it works, right, is you choose your Covenant. That unlocks gameplay and content. Right now, the few active abilities that we have in Alpha is the tip of the iceberg with Covenants, right? So right now in Alpha, you know, with your Covenant choice, yeah, you just get some ability, you get your Covenant abilities, but that's basically it. Well, now in beta, once you actually hit max level, you're going to be properly making your Covenant choice, and that means a hell of a lot more. So, Soulbinds, right? Now, Soulbinds are basically a set of talent trees you get on a per covenant basis. The lore is you're binding your soul to somebody from that covenant, and the soul bind of that person will be really based on what they're like. So one of the Venthyr people, like she's a master of the blade, kind of a fencer character. So her soul bind is all really based off that. Now, you've got the soul bind tree, okay? But then you've also got conduit slots. So into those slots go conduits. Now, conduits are basically kind of like the relics from Legion, so they drop from your max level gameplay sources. They go in and they actually give you special effects. Now, whether or not they are consumable like gems, we're not quite sure. We believe they are. I do sort of actually disagree with that quite strongly. So one of the things I'll be asking Ian later on today is, are they consumable? And if so, I would like to see the teams working out there, because it does feel to me like it is just kind of inflating the playtime a little bit, and that I'd far rather just have a whole bunch of conduits that I could mix and match like from a library to really build out my character. So we'll see what Ian says on that topic if we get to it. Now, what is good here is that unlike the soulbind traits, right? Now, those are universal. They're not, they're not class specific or spec specific, but the conduits are spec specific. Now, that is really good to me, because that means that you can actually target a conduit build to make your character, go in a certain direction, maybe synergize with some talents. So that is really exciting to me. However, if they are consumable and they operate like gems, then I think that will really hamper the part of that system that could actually allow you to, to mix and match, to actually swap around your character, to just get that RPG feeling of customizing your build. So I really think those conduits, look, if I get a normal mode version of a conduit, surely that's not something that should be broken whenever I put a new conduit into that slot, right? And surely I should then want to go and get a heroic mode version of that conduit that's maybe a little bit better, right? You know my thinking there. So that's the conduit system, but overall the system with the soulbinds is your conduits go in, you make your selections as you go through the soulbind talent tree, and that is a way of your character gaining power that is based on your covenant, that is in addition to the covenant ability that of course you get, and the covenant class ability that you also get. Now, switching your soulbinds is actually really easy. Switching them, configuring them, all that stuff is, from what we understand, pretty much like talents. There is no Battle for Azeroth like, ramping reforge cost or anything like that. So that is really good to hear that they are learning their lesson there. So that's that system. Next, let's move on to essentially anima power, artifact power, whatever you want to call it. Well, what it is actually now called is Renown. So Renown is basically, you could say, your Covenant XP bar, right? So as you get more Renown by collecting anima and doing things for your Covenant, you'll level up. You'll gain more Renown, and that leveling up will unlock new Covenant features in your Covenant Sanctum, new cosmetics, new soul binds, things like that. Now, this is going to be earned on a weekly basis by gaining anima. Now, that would include by just doing max level content, I believe doing world quests, things like that, or by going into the Maw and then rescuing tormented souls who really do belong in your Covenant, not the Maw. And we'll talk about the Maw in a little bit. Now, this is not an open-ended grind. This is metered progression, and I really believe that means capped progression, right? It reminds me a little bit more of Valor points in the Mists of Pandaria days in terms of how players will engage with it, more than a situation where, you'll have people endlessly grinding islands or the Maw or Torghast. It very much seems like that is not Blizzard's plan, that they don't want this to feel like something that just shackles you to one character where you want to progress as deeply as you can. And they also want to make sure that from the moment that the Shadowlands expansion launches, there will be catch-up systems here for alts. And I suppose with there being Covenants being a major choice, 4 different Covenants, Blizzard probably want you to be able to, I would say, go deep on one character and to have that character be, really ready for Endgame, but then also maintain 3 other characters and have them be relevant, because you probably will want to go through all of that Covenant content. So essentially here, from what we know, this is the new artifact power-ish, but it's not an infinite grind. It's very different. There will be some sort of weekly cap on it. Now, previously we had heard that there would be a weekly cap in terms of like the player power you could get from it, but not really a cap in terms of other things like cosmetics. So we're not really sure how that's going to shake out just yet. But of course, we'll see as beta goes on. So moving on from that progression, we then have the Covenant Sanctum. Now, this is basically somewhere with a loose inspiration from the garrisons and the class halls. It's your Covenant's base. The idea is essentially that you sort of begin and end your gameplay sessions at that Covenant base, at that Sanctum. Now, the way that it works is that there are upgrades for your Sanctums, okay? So in terms of what those upgrades are, well, and what there is basically, we know that every Covenant has a transportation network, which will allow them to move around their zone. Blizzard's real goal there is you just feel like you're a sort of a master of your Covenant zone and less of a master of the other zones of the Shadowlands, and that makes a lot of sense. So there's that. Then every Covenant has an Anima Conductor. Now, this is a bit wild, a bit weird, I suppose, right? So the Anima Conductor, the lore, right, is that's where the Anima sort of is, and you direct it through your Covenant zone. But what this actually means in terms of gameplay is you get to select with your Anima Conductor essentially what part of the zone you want to activate from an endgame perspective, and when you do that, it will unlock treasure quests and other outdoor world content. And then as your Anima Conductor is upgraded, you'll just have more options there, and eventually you can permanently unlock all of the different spaces. Now, to me, that sort of seems like the new version of World Quest, but again, that's something I'm going to try to get a little bit more detail on in my interview with Ian. Now, moving on, there's also a scouting map. Yes, there is going to be one in your Covenant. However, they said that they are not looking to go back to a WoD era version of the map, and that they really do want to put more gameplay there. They said that it's an outlet for a little bit of storytelling and also some offline progression, but that they want to add depth to the system. And that right now, it's a trait matching game that's just a coin flip, right? But they are entirely redoing it. Now, the new version of this is basically an abstracted, turn-based version of World of Warcraft content where essentially, you level up your Soulbinds, you recruit troops, you do missions, you do this all on the mission board. And if you look at the UI, right, you can see the missions have got tank, healer, DPS. It seems like there's positional gameplay. And really, to be honest with you, this whole thing reminds me of auto chess, right? It reminds me of the auto chess genre. It's something Blizzard have done with Hearthstone and Hearthstone Battlegrounds. Seems like it would be a perfect fit here. And to be honest with you, right, here's what I'll say. In Legion, getting my legendary things for my champions, I kind of thought that stuff was fun. And, getting a build that would funnel me resources, that was fun as well. But of course, the bit that was not fun was the missions, because they were just really boring. So if they can essentially make a fun auto chess mini game and just give me some ways of, progressing my characters who are related to that, then yeah, sure. In that case, it'll feel less like a random Facebook game and more like, just this sort of offline progression, sort of turn-based auto-chessy strategic thing. If they can really nail that, then I think it'll be pretty good. If not, then, at worst case, it'll just be a bit boring. So that's the three things that every Covenant has, but every Covenant will also have its own unique special thing. Now, so for that, there's the Venthyr one. Now, that is the Ember Court. And basically, right, the vampires are... basically, right, it's a big horny vampire wine party, essentially. Okay, so the whole thing there is, you're a socialite, and oh god, it's quite funny. I wonder, should I show you a concept for a sort of a vampire-y thing that we've worked on before? Maybe, maybe not, but it's quite funny anyway. But essentially, right, there's a lot of social stuff going on here where, you're trying to seek out guests, right? You're going across the Shadowlands, you want to find guests, you want to seek services that will make your party better, right? More exciting, to make the party goers happier. And then, once you do all your prep work, you then live through your party in real time. So you're attending to the needs of the party goers, you're, fighting party crashers. It's basically just, a big party mini game, and it's essentially a fun side activity that the Venthyr do. Basically, it seems like a sort of gameplay experiment mini game thing. So yeah, that's what's going on there. It's, not so much my cup of tea as compared to one or two of the other ones that Blizzard have got going on, but you know what? It's actually nice to see them experiment with little things. You had the Withered mini game, you had the Chromie mini game. Generally, when Blizzard try there, the Treasure Trove from 5.2, when Blizzard try, it often does end up with some pretty cool stuff, so I do like seeing them do this. Then for the Kyrians, there's the Path of Ascension. Now, this is driven by the Soul Mirror, and the Soul Mirror lets you kind of relive your Soulbinds memories. Basically, what happens is you inhabit the body of your Soulbind, you get sort of their abilities, and in the Soul Mirror, like I guess in the Path of Ascension, right, what you do is you basically fight bosses as your Soulbind. And it's basically kind of like a boss rush that is loosely inspired by the Shartul event from TBC, which I believe we covered in our TBC series, so that's pretty cool. And the sort of out of combat bit of that is, I believe you can also sort of go around the Shadowlands and get bosses to actually be in your Path of Ascension. So, seems kind of cool. There's a little bit of me that's kind of thinking, oh, that would be really cool if it was like the Mage Tower and it was super hard. But at the same time, I'm not particularly sure if that would work because you're kind of playing as your Soulbinds. But pretty cool. Anyway, for the Necrolords, you've got the Abomination Factory where basically, right, you build these fleshwork creatures like A-bombs, ghouls, geists, things like that. And then souls can be put in your fleshwork creatures and they can basically help you in the outdoor world, give you some perks, stuff like that. Then for the Night Fae, you've got the Queen's Conservatory, and the lore is that this is where powerful souls germinate, but the gameplay is that it's the Mists of Pandaria farm. And you know what? That's great. The Night Fae is the faction that I wanted to go for, and yeah, that, you know, I now get a little farm to take care of. I like that a lot. Actually, I think that those little things just, they help you feel more at home in the game, give you a thing you're thinking about, and certainly as I look to 10.0, I know we're not there yet, but I'm thinking, you know, can we get a guild hall? Can that have a farm? Can I get a player house with a farm in it? I just kind of want things like that. So there's that. Then, in terms of the other things Blizzard revealed, that's really it for the Covenant stuff. There's a new dungeon, the Theater of Pain. This is the final dungeon I think they're revealing. So it's a max level one in the center of Maldraxxus, where it's basically supposed to be a battle royale where all the houses fight each other to see who's the strongest. But this particular one is a bit special, so there's that. And then the other big bit of content coming into the beta is the Maw. Now, the Maw is pretty cool. So there's this character, Venari, a little bit spooky, sort of broker character, but what matters is she doesn't want to kill us. So we work with her to investigate the Maw and to gather resources. And it seems like the more resources we get and bring back to her, the more we can get upgrades that make us more effective in the Maw and of course in Torghast as well. Now, as for the Maw, okay, we've seen a little bit, we've seen a little bit of it here and there, but not a great deal. And the core of it is that it's inspired by the likes of Mechagon and the Timeless Isles, where it's all about that discoverable content and the way that it works, okay? From what I understand is you get like sent there every day, or, you know, maybe it's not every day, but you get sent there by your Covenant, and you just kind of, it's, from what I get, right, it's this grab bag of a lot of, well, because you're rescuing souls from it to bring back to your Covenant to get Renown, it seems like this grab bag of pretty time-efficient Renown, so you're going there, and it's really dangerous, you're trying to get as much done as you can, but the thing is, whenever you sort of, you know, draw up a ruckus, well, the jailer's actually looking at you, okay, and what that means is I think he can send enemies at you and just do a bunch of stuff to try to get you, so really with the Maw, it's about going in well prepared with a plan and just trying to get as much done as you can because it's supposed to be like the most dangerous part of the Shadowlands. So I actually think it's pretty cool that they're doing this endgame only zone and they're actually trying to make it feel different. Of course, once beta actually hits, that is one of the things that I am very much going to be excited to test out to really see if they can actually meet their design goals. Now, with that said, let's talk about the road ahead, right, as we actually take this from alpha to beta and then beta to a release candidate. So, Castle Nathria, that is entering testing later this month, as is Shadowlands Mythic Plus, where they are going to be testing the existing affixes on, on the new dungeons, and also going to be testing out the first unique Shadowlands, like, seasonal affix. So, that'll be interesting to see. That said, do you like affixes that much? Because I'm not big into like the Mythic Plus community, but whenever I go on Twitter, I just see a lot of people expressing a sort of distaste for, especially things like Tyrannical, but just not being too thrilled at the affix system. So I would love to know, do you actually enjoy affixes? How do they impact your gameplay? Or do you think it's the sort of thing where it's like, you don't enjoy them, but you know that if the dungeons weren't a bit different every week, you'd be kind of bored. So I'd like to hear what you think there. Anyway, so there's that. Then legendary rune crafting, that is something that will be coming onto the beta soon enough. Now, the rune crafting is basically just how you make your own legendary. Now, those legendaries, the core of it, right, is the power of Legion, but with you actually having control of how you get them. And there's going to be a lot of powers that are throwbacks to old set bonuses, Legion legendaries, and things like that. So that's pretty cool. Then also Covenant campaigns. So these are basically just the war campaign. Blizzard said that every Covenant has a campaign. Those campaigns are about the same size as the war campaign. And to be honest, that actually initially gave me a big pang of disappointment because I think the war campaign sucked. But if I actually calm down and think about it, I think the war campaign kind of sucked because the story was just not really that good and it didn't really show the war, so it kind of didn't meet my expectations of the war campaign. Because when I thought of war campaign, what I really wanted was, oh wow, the war, cool. We're going to see the war. We're going to find out the war in World of Warcraft. When instead we kind of just did very, very boring regular quest hijinks, so that was a bit disappointing to me. I didn't like the story. However, if you took the runtime of the war campaigns and you told a more focused story, maybe it's just a situation where, you know, giving players the feeling of a war just doesn't really work in World of Warcraft as an MMO, and maybe WoW is just a lot more designed for, you know, sort of special forces hijinks, and perhaps that's something that will fit a lot better with the format of the storytelling of an epic Covenant campaign. I mean, it certainly did for our Class Order Hall campaigns. I imagine it would here, so yes, I was initially a bit confused on how I felt about that one, but I suppose it probably could be quite good as long as the story is really strong. So then also the things that are going to be tested next are cosmetics, Soulbinds, all of that stuff, where they just want to get players' thoughts. There's also going to be focused PvP testing and also testing of progression. And that is going to involve basically testing the pace of rewards. For that, they're going to wipe characters and then, this is the exciting bit, do full character copies. So you can actually get the full Shadowlands experience. I think that's pretty cool and pretty key. And here's something that Ian said that I think really matters. And this is almost a big admission. One thing that they have learned is there is no substitute for players just playing. And here is the quote: rather than having regrets a month or two into the expansion. Now, I've heard people say that Blizzard knew, right, that Azerite was not going to be great and that they just had to launch the expansion regardless. And I think that is true. But I think it went worse than they thought. And I think Blizzard, or Ian, saying that they had regrets a month or two into the expansion is direct. I think that's him directly saying, yep, we did not test progression in BFA. Oh dear, Endgame. That's something we've got regrets about, which, I mean, they'd be mad not to have regrets about how BFA Endgame went initially. But the thing is, it's actually good to hear that be talked about. Obviously, the hope is that that feedback has actually, you know, been heard by them and that they operate in a better manner in the future. That said, I will say there's plenty of things that do suggest they actually are operating better. And that is the thing that does give me a pretty damn good bit of hope about Shadowlands. To be real with you, I am feeling pretty darn good about this expansion. Now, as for other things, Ian basically just said, next, it's lots of polish, lots of tuning, and, you know, getting lots of feedback on things. You know, as he gave an example, right, with the Ardenweald Paladin ability. That's an example of, you know, it's not polish and it's not tuning because they really have just realized that it fundamentally needed to be changed. They couldn't iterate it to be better, they just needed to redesign. So their core there is they've been trying to get those really big high-level things done and then set it up so that once beta hits and gets on a little bit, it is all about that polish and refinement. And you know what? That's all she wrote. That's it. That's what they talked about. A lot of people wanted a release date. I did as well. But I think that with the pandemic going on, with work from home, that just means that things are a lot harder to predict for companies. And, you know, that's just going to impact stuff. I think we just got to be realistic about that. So was I disappointed? Yes. Am I necessarily going to blame Blizzard for that? No, not really at all, because there's stuff going on. We all know this. Seems like half of America's on fire these days. So I imagine it's pretty hard giving precise dates for things. So we know Q4. It seems like they've got a good plan for beta. You know, we didn't hear exactly, but from what I've seen so far in alpha, things like character templates, they're doing a good job of them. It really seems like they want to give us focused endgame testing. And they have been responsive to things. Now, the Covenant class abilities thing, maybe less so that, but just about everything else, you know, when it comes to the torments and when it comes to entrance fees to Torghast, they have been listening, and they have actually, even though there was a period of maybe a month and a half where I was really worried the classes were not moving that much, they have been moving recently. Now, don't worry, Shadow Priests, I will be bringing you up in my interview, or at least, look, we don't have that much time, but that is my intention. I'll say that my intention is to bring up Shadow Priests. But, you know, it seems like things are going in a better direction. Certainly, this is a far better administered, even though everything is against them in terms of their IRL circumstances, this is going better than BFA. And to be honest with you, if Shadowlands is a expansion without major drama, that's just, you know, not a 10 out of 10, maybe not even a 9 out of 10, just an 8.5 out of 10, that's trustworthy, that's not, you know, that's not got BS in it. Obviously, Blizzard will want to aim higher, right? But if it's just really, really damn good and does not make key mistakes that make you not want to play it, and Blizzard, as Ian even said in this, don't get in the way of you playing the game. If they can just get those basics right, then I think we'll be in for a really good time for World of Warcraft. And thus far, I do think for the most part, they are getting those basics right. I think the only hump for people to get over will, of course, be the Covenant ability swapping thing. And I hear you in that one. yeah, we'll just have to see. I might ask Ian about that. To be honest, though, I would just wonder if it would be a wasted question, because realistically, he's going to be like, you know, yeah, like, this is our design. Probably. We'll see what happens anyway. But that's it. That's the general state of things. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Of course, if you want to support the channel and also get a free audiobook via today's sponsor, Audible, then you can just pre-order the new WoW audiobook for free and keep it forever. Pretty good deal, isn't it? So you can do that. But yeah, thanks for all your support. Thank you for watching this video. There'll be more up on the channel in a pretty short order. And yeah, just with that, cheers, and I will see you next time.